Right. I've got 206 bones to pick with this fucker, because that's how many of mine he's fucking broken. What I'm gonna say about Cassante is heavily biased and not to be taken as 100% fact. Roughly 90%. And so I'll remind you of this now. It's called an Irish review for two reasons. One, because it's a review. And two, because it gives me an excuse to get really loud whenever I need to. Because good lord, there's a volume warning in this video.
仲間の数と配置は
So, before we get into the cesspool that is Cassante, I actually kind of realised I'm really labeling these videos wrong because I'm mostly putting Heartsteel in the title for views. So let's start here. Heartsteel Cassante, as a skin, I actually really like it. Out of all the Heartsteel skins, it's actually on the top when it comes to how much I actually like it, although realistically they are all like an 8 out of 10 minimum, at least as far as I'm concerned. For the other two champions that we have done, Set and Aphelios, they're Heartsteel skins. I'm gonna say coming out to an 8 out of 10 for Set. I do quite like it, but I'm so sorry, Spirit Blossom is just too good. But for Aphelios, I wouldn't say it's his best skin, but I quite enjoy the effects that you can see on all the guns, so we're going to go ahead and give that one a 9. I'll do this at the start of the future reviews as well, but just for now, I'm a bit of an idiot, so we'll leave it here in this one. But anyway, actual gameplay now, let's start with his passive. Cassante's abilities place a mark on enemy champions, which he can then proc by autoing them. This auto attack will have increased range, and also do a percentage of their max health as damage. Now this isn't too egregious. You can look over at Gwen if you want to see actual egregiousness. Max health marks on autos, I see no issue with personally. I actually think this is quite okay. There's other mark type champions in the game where a mark will do bonus damage or anything similar, or maybe just triggers an extra effect. But this is fine, at least as far as I'm concerned. And this is one of the more skill expressive parts of Cassante's kit. If you just go around mashing your head on the keyboard, you're not going to be getting anywhere. You need to weave in your autos as much as you can if you want to actually be benefiting from your passive. But now, Natofo strikes. Cassante's Q is Yasuo and Yone Q slapped onto a tank. Why? Great fucking question. The first part of the Q, Cassante just slams down, slowing the enemy and doing a good chunk of damage. When at 2 charges, this ability changes into a weird singed E Yasuo Q hybrid. Cassante will send out a straight line, which if it collides with an enemy, will knock them back towards him and stun them for 0.25 seconds. Now this isn't too bad. Still, this is it's okay. You know, it's not the easiest skill shot to land in the world. There's not too much about it that's actually abhorrent, until you get to the fact that it scales with his resistances. Now, when I say that it scales with the resistances, yes, I do mean the damage increases with resistances. But that's not something too bad. You can look at Ornn, he's got it himself. It's never something terrible to have, especially on a tank champion who's obviously going to be building tank. So I see no issue with this. What I do have an issue with is giving him cooldown reduction for some fucking reason on the ability, flat cooldown reduction, just a flat reduction in the cooldown, which is then affected by your ability haste when he just builds health. Why? Why, Riot Games? Does he need this? Is this important to the game? Does he really need it? He is building full tank every game. He's gonna have a lot of ability haste. That just comes with the territory of being a tank. You get a lot of ability haste items. Is this required? Is this mandatory? Did he really need this? During playtesting, were people going around like, oh no, this is actually pretty fine, but there's one big issue here that I'm actually finding for this myself now, and it's the fact that we can't fucking send out the Q as fast as we'd fucking want to. Like, it also, the speed of it scales. The speed of it fucking scales. The speed of it scales with your resistances that you build. Why does the speed of it scale with the resistances that you build? Why does it come out faster when he gets tankier? What? Why? Why? It's not like Kai'Sa or any other champion with an auto attack reducing ability cooldown. It's nothing like that. It's just flat cooldown reduction, which is then affected by more cooldown reduction. Like, if you really wanted to keep this in, look, let's just say it's mandatory, okay? Let's just say during the testing, you know, they thought, yeah, this is actually really good. This is what he kind of needs to be as fun as possible. Okay, look, I disagree with you, but we can live with it. If we maybe shift it around and say, maybe if you proc his passive, it will then go ahead and reduce your cooldown by a bit. I don't know how much it should be. I'm not able to do math on the spot. I only thought up with this when I was writing this at like 11 PM at night. I don't know how the Riot should exactly go about this, but I really do think that something like this, where you proc the passive for a bit of a cooldown reduction, would make a lot more sense than fucking building health. He's gonna do it anyway. Moving on, Cassante's W, Pathmaker. That's, you know, horrendous. I've got a few issues with it, but compared to the Q, like we're okay. We're chilling. So Cassante's W will cause him to stand still and channel for a minimum of 0.75 seconds and up to a max of 1.5 seconds. While channeling, he gets 40 to 65% damage reduction, and then at the end of the channel, he charges in whatever direction, pushing all enemies caught in the path forward and stunning them for 1.25 seconds. Now look, the channel and the damage reduction, I can tolerate. I play Warwick. I get up to 55% damage reduction and an AoE fear in one ability. This isn't the worst at the moment. It's gonna get worse as we progress. But on its own, it can get a mild pass. Footwork, Cassante's E, is pretty much just a worse Lee Sin W. The main differences between it is that Cassante E has significantly less range if he's on his own, but either way, you're giving yourself a shield if you use this ability on nothing. However, if you dash to an ally, the maximum range heavily increases, and you also give the ally in question a shield. I actually quite like abilities like this. Stuff like Rakani, Lee Sin W, any type of ally type dash, I like quite a bit. Whether it's for cases like Peel, which you would frequently see with Rakan, or even if it's just for, well, whatever the hell Lee Sin wants to do in the morning, I guess, you know. For all you know, he could be dashing back to help you, or he's dashing to you, because as far as he's concerned, you're just a moving ward. Now this shield does scale with Cassante's max health. I don't mind this too much. I have a few issues with his health scalings. One in particular that you all just heard about. But this one, not too bad. It makes sense. Having these supportive types of things on tanks, as far as I'm concerned, quite fine. One thing to know as well is that on its own, you can't dash over walls with it, but if an ally's on the other end because of the increased range, you can. Mobility like this, where it's a little bit more conditional, once again, as far as I'm concerned, actually pretty okay. At the moment. We still have one more thing to cover. So now, I did tell you all at the beginning of the volume warning that's going to be happening here, but I'm just going to tell you all again here, volume warning. So please mind your ears. Cassante's ult, All Out, is the most bullshit ability in League of Legends. Cassante will root an enemy champion. Point and click route. Okay, fine. Point and click route. 0.5 seconds. He then dashes behind them. However, if this dash extends to a wall, you will then dash over the wall, dragging the other enemy with you across this thing, like some fucking anime villain, just dragging them across the floor. There's no range on it. Whatever wall length you're dashing through, they will come with you. There's no limit to it. There was a bug in ARAM, I might have been patched, I don't fucking know if it has been. There was a bug in ARAM where Cassante could dash from one base to the other, dragging the poor soul with him all the way to the other end. Either way, in total, like the entire stun duration of Cassante's ult, an entirely point and click ability, is 1.5 seconds. But it doesn't just end there. It's not just some simple dash that can bring enemies over a wall. Why would it ever be that? Why would it be such a simple ability? Why would Riot Games do something like that? No, my friends. This ability also turns Cassante from a tank into a damn near assassin. After dashing through this wall, Cassante shatters his Natofos as a demonstration for how he's gonna shatter your fucking kneecaps, decreasing his max health to only 65%. Along with this, he gets his base resistances reduced by 85% of his bonus resistances. He is still keeping resistances. It doesn't matter that his health has dropped down, and yes, he is technically squishier, he's still keeping these resistances. And it doesn't end there. It's not like he just gets a bunch of stat increases. Changes every single one of his abilities. The worst part, the absolute worst part of this ultimate and this changing of his abilities is in his passive. The damage from his passive, to begin with, it increases. It just flat out, he just gets more damage from his passive mark. Okay, look, fine. I can live with it. No, I can't live with it, because this damage is also converted to true damage. He is doing max health true damage. You can't do anything about this damage. You're going to take this damage. You're going to be taking 5% of your max health as damage, you're taking 5% of your max health as damage. That's what true damage is. The whole point of true damage is that it's balanced by the fact that you build health to counter it. It counters resistances, health counters true damage. It's a give and take relationship. It works perfectly. Why does he have max health true damage? Why are we giving this to him? What? This is sort of like one of the most broken possible damage types in the game, and we're just casually handing it out and increasing the damage that it will deal because we just fucking feel like making sense today. And also, you know how I was talking about cooldown reduction earlier? Cooldown reduction on this Q? He gets 25% cooldown reduction on the Q. For some fucking reason. Why? Why is he playing Earth? Why is he playing Earth? Now, sure, okay. Fine, you make the argument. His W doesn't stun anymore. He's got less CC in this version. That doesn't matter. He's still getting his damage reduction. Increased damage reduction, mind you. This is it's increased the damage reduction. Why does he need, he's keeping his resistances. We've already been over this. If he lost all of his resistances down to just the base, plus the growth that your armor gets naturally, you know, like that kind of stuff, I could understand it. And it keeps getting worse. The W cooldown gets reset when he ults. This means you can go into a fight, soak up a ton of damage with your 75% damage W, stun people for 1.25 seconds, ult them over a wall, and even though, you know, they might be looking at you like, okay, we dealt a decent chunk of damage to you, you're coming down to about 70% health. It doesn't matter if it comes down to 65% of his health, he's still at full health basically when he takes you out with this. And you're like, okay, well look, he has still lost some resistances, maybe I've got a chance. No, you don't! He's gonna hit W and get like 80 fucking something percent damage reduction. Why? And the E, well, it's actually, honestly, it's not too bad. It's still basically, his E just gets further range. I mean, it's not terrible. It's actually pretty tame, and then you realize that he can cast any ability during the E, because we're just fucking, he just can. You could just be fighting him, and he uses his E, and he starts charging up his W. And you're like, well, okay, to start with the W, he has to do a minimum of 0.75 seconds anyway. It doesn't matter. The E basically cancels out that time, because he's still moving during the E anyway, but he's charging up the W to begin with. So he takes off a good chunk of that time, which is the whole reason that this timer was nerfed to begin with. I'm like, this champion, I'm fine. I'm fine, I swear. I'm 100% okay. A good chunk of my anger was just for the bit. And I need to tell you all now that fairly recently, Cassante was just reworked. Mini reshuffled, rebalanced, I don't know what the terminology for it was. But it didn't do anything that it's meant to. Sure, you might tone down their damage numbers, but if you, say, make it way easier to put out these damage numbers, it doesn't really matter. And I want you all to take the wildest of guesses as to what happened to Cassante. When Riot went ahead with this mini rework, which changed a bunch of things, now I do believe, like personally, a lot of them were deserved. A lot of these were needed. But it doesn't change the fact that it just made him tremendously easier. When I was getting footage for this video, okay, I am horrendous at Cassante. I could not play Cassante to save my life. I didn't enjoy playing him too much to begin with, which is its own issue, but just fundamentally, I was not good at Cassante. He was not a champion that I could pilot well enough. Riot just got rid of that. When I was getting footage for this, I was getting, like, kills upon kills against a Gwen. Sure, like, I did need a bit of help, but that was just me being an idiot. Like, if that was a good player, or even just someone who's, like, familiar with Cassante, like, it's even a bit, say if I had played, like, 10 games of him instead of, like, 3, I would have been doing amazing against her, honestly. Like, that's how easy it has become. Like, I could tell from playing, from when I had first, like, gave him a few tries before, he had gotten so much easier. Look, I went on a bit of a rant there. A lot of that was not in the script. You could say I'm one of the biggest Cassante haters. And you'd be fair, you'd be right. I couldn't blame you for saying that. I like Casante's design. I like Casante's story. I think it's actually, both of those are really cool. And even his gameplay, fundamentally, this kind of form switching type stuff, it's actually pretty cool. It's a good idea, but it's executed so sloppily by the Champion design team and then left as a mess for the Champion balance team to deal with. But now let's finish it there. I know this was a little bit closer to a rant, and I am sorry if you're not a fan of that content. I did try to keep it as funny as I could, as close to a bit as I could, because realistically it was. I'm not genuinely that angry at Casante, but sometimes loud equals funny, only occasionally. But either way, the support on the videos recently has been really nice to see. I do appreciate it quite a bit. And I also have put up a poll in the community tabs asking what champion wants to be seen next for Heartsteel. So we're going to be going with Kane by the looks of that one, at least as I'm recording this, that has the most votes. But I'm going to be doing another poll when this goes live, so if you want to head into the community tab there, and you'll be able to go ahead and vote for yourself if you want to see Ezreal or Yone next. But either way, I'm done here for today, so I'll talk to you next time, lads.